The famous Swiss saint Nicholas from Cusa once stated, "I have found a place where God is revealed. This place is surrounded by the coincidence of opposites. That is the wall of paradise. God dwells. Its gate is guarded by the highest intellectual spirit. If one doesn't overcome it, the entrance doesn't open. But beyond that wall of the collapse of opposites, one can see God, but not on this side." End quote. It's a heavy quote, but in short, you can say, how can we use the mind to paradoxically overcome it? And this is not about positive thinking and not about crystal balls. It's just two different methods, one philosophical and one psychological. The mind, by its very nature, is a problem solver on the one hand, but on the other hand, the mind also is a problem causer. Why? The mind, by its very nature, works in ups and downs, like a sinus curve. Always ups and downs appear, negative emotions, positive emotions, again and again. And if we are in the human mind, and most people are all the time, we are suffering from the negative phases and waiting for the positive situations, or for the helper, or for something, that something changes and suddenly it ends up good. But also there are people who are more like problem solvers, trying to make this world a better place. And also maybe you know people who are always seeking the problems or causing even more problems. They are having more the tendency of negativity. But basically everyone has both. And the more developed ones, or some of them only, are striving for the enlightenment because they have figured out what's maybe really important in this life. And so they were already thinking a bit, or some knew from religion, some knew from philosophy. It's different. And people suddenly figure out, okay, I want the enlightenment. But again, there is a new wanting, a new striving, and still only by wanting it, it doesn't happen. So what we can do then is to use the problem solving function of the mind to to go in the direction of the enlightenment. And for many, it already helped to ask basic questions, big questions, not only the small ones. One day at a point of my life, I was sick of everything, of the everyday life, of religion, of everything. And I just threw out all of my knowledge, what I knew before from religion, from what society says, people, whatever. And I started from very new to ask myself why we may be here and where do we have to go, or what should we strive for. First, of course, it started with personal questions. I for myself asked, why have I the disease? And from out of question of the disease, I came to the point, who is actually the person who has the disease? And then what or who am I? And what is this all about? Why are we here? And then these things came. One question came, one and then I can recommend to do something of monotony. In the Bible and in the Quran, in every scripture, it is said that people went in the desert for a period of time, or God sent them in the desert. It depends. The desert is a place of monotony. There is nothing. It's boring there. And people feel even drained out in the desert. But there has to be a period of time in your life which is like a desert. That is what the Bible wants to tell with this image of the desert. You have to take out time, a longer period of holiday, you can say in modern words. You have to forget the everyday life. And that's the best opportunity to ask the question. Even if you are still in everyday life and you have the weekend, you can be alone and go for a very long walk. Of course, you take water with you. You are not going in the desert and not harming the body so much, but you go an almost lonely path and ask the questions. And by the way, you will get some answers maybe from within, or you will talk with yourself and answer yourself. Some people talk even loud, others only in thoughts. It's okay. You can also do it by cleaning the house. You don't have to walk so much if you don't like. I have also started it by cleaning the house, but walking is also one of my favorite. Or just sitting at home, but not switching on anything. Just create your own desert with throwing out, mentally throwing out only. You can also throw out physically the TV or something, but you will see it's not so good. The point here is also having much time of much free time, a longer period in a row, that it will feel kind of endless, like almost eternity. Eternity will come later when we reach the enlightenment. But if there is a limit, like you will feel when you do this for a weekend, like thinking of these things, using the mind in right ways to think about the big questions, it can happen that by Sunday evening, when already you get nervous because Monday morning has to be prepared for the work, so it can happen that when it comes to the end, that it will be critically, and then you automatically get the wish to take much more holiday or even to quit the job for a while. Whatever is possible, I can recommend to leave the world for a while, but not to the typical places. In previous times, people did so. There were even in very previous times the desert, okay. But even 50 years ago, many people from America, from Germany, and maybe some other European countries, they went to India for spiritual journey. But that time, India was not that overcrowded. Okay, compared to other countries, already a bit overcrowded, but now even much more overcrowded. And especially these places of spirituality, like Dharamshala, are very much overcrowded by not only tourists, but also Westerners who live there in long term, and even more Indians, because when they see there are tourists coming, they want to make business. So you don't have to go to an extra place. You can do it in the house. You can do it in the forest nearby or anywhere, but not to talk with anyone, because then even your best friend will influence your meaning, will influence. You have to be very free and open, because so you get the first contact with the inside, with your higher self, maybe. And therefore, it's better to be not influenced from anyone, not even from the best friend. And that is a very good thing, to use the mind. It makes even mostly sense to use the mind in that way. All other purposes the people use the mind are actually leading to negative things in long term. Entanglement, it is said in Buddhism. Confusion will appear, it is said in Christianity, because the mind, whenever goes astray, leaves the soul and entangles in, for any purposes, in the material, for on the social level, on the social media, on the technical things on the screen. Everything is entanglement, and you will entangle with the world, with the material, with practical things. And that's not bad per se. The mind is also a good problem solver there, and you can this. That's okay. But the good thing is, to use the mind to reach the enlightenment is good to think of the big questions. That's the very, when you got the first answers from inside, believe me, you will see that this is the best way you have ever used your mind in your whole life. And that's why I say, ask yourself the big questions. Take out time, ask yourself, and fulfill your life. The next aspect is to overcome the opposite. As said in the quotation of the beginning, that is one way to figure out about the higher self, and one way at the end to God even. And this you can use even in everyday life. You don't have to take extra holiday, or you don't have to quit the job, but you have to be aware of the projections. Carl Jung, the famous psychologist, explained it best, that when we are among people, especially among people, we project. That means we have actually, in our consciousness, we are everything, we have everything, we have all opposites. Many interesting psychologists and philosophers say that we have to overcome the opposites. That is one way to overcome the mind, the ego, and to go through what's behind the wall. Opposites means extremes. Like, we have this whole world is a polar world. It's a dual world. We have day and night, male and female, flood and low tide, darkness and light. But only in this world. The whole mind is dual. The mind lives of separation. That's why we say you and me. And in the union, meditators know what I mean. When you feel connected, then, and the highest union, of course, is when there is no ego anymore, no me, then everything is one. The whole consciousness gets broader and tries to connect with everything. But the more one is in the mind, the more he creates separation. That's why negative people always start to create anger on others, to create separation. That's the normal habit of people or of non-strivers for enlightenment, because we are educated in this fighting system. We are only educated to reach something like a good job and much money and big cars and so. They don't know that's actually the illusion and the unknowledge from which the philosophers talked. Or Buddha said the ignorance. But this only comes from the ego mind, because the normal mind, the human mind, only lives in the illusion of what we see. What you see is what you get, you see. Even traders say so. That means I want to say the whole entanglement is not only on the screen, is not only with people, is not only with any material, it's already with our senses and with our own thoughts. And that is even more illusionary than only the material surface. So the entanglement with the own psyche or psychological waste, you can say, is the biggest thing what we have to overcome. And here all the opposites exist. That means extremes. Most people like something and reject the opposite. And so it always goes. But we have to be respectful. We have to learn to be tolerant to the opposite also. Here, even some people of entanglement, of normal people who are not striving for enlightenment, sometimes have the advantage when they have many friends and they are tolerant about friends have different hobbies. I'm not interested in this hobby, but they think, yeah, I'm not interested, but it's okay. He's my friend. I will tolerate this. And so it can also happen that even rich people or people who are not consciously striving for the enlightenment are also very tolerant. It's very different. But if in half enlightened, someone who is on this path is going to this tolerant state to accept everything, then it can happen that it lifts him up. And that's why the philosophers and Carl Jung and these guys say overcoming the opposite is one way to overcoming the walls of the mind and to go into the center heaven. Hope this could inspire some. Have a nice week. See you soon. Bye.